Senator McCain.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank Secretary Gates and Admiral Mullins, what's turning into a very long morning for them, and we appreciate your patience and your input on this very, very important issue. We meet to consider the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy that the President has made clear most recently last week in his State of the Union address that he wants Congress to repeal. This would be a substantial and controversial change to a policy that has been successful for 2 decades. It would also present yet another challenge to our military at a time of already tremendous stress and strain. Our men and women in uniform are fighting 2 wars, guarding the front lines against a global terrorist enemy, serving and sacrificing on battlefields far from home, and working to rebuild and reform the force after more than 8 years of conflict. At this moment of immense hardship for our armed services, we should not be seeking to overturn the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. I want to make one thing perfectly clear up front. I'm enormously proud of and thankful for every American who chooses to put on the uniform of our nation and serve at this time of war. I want to encourage more of our fellow citizens to serve and to open up opportunities to do so. Many gay and lesbian Americans are serving admirably in our armed forces, even giving their lives so that we and others can know the blessings of peace. I honor their sacrifice, and I honor them. Our challenge is how to continue welcoming this service amid the vast complexities of the largest, most expensive, most well-regarded, and most critical institution in our nation, our armed forces. This is an extremely difficult issue, and the Senate vigorously debated it in 1993. We heard from the senior uniformed and civilian leaders of our military on 8 occasions before this committee alone. When Congress ultimately wrote the law, we included important findings that did justice to the seriousness of the subject. I would ask without objection, Mr. Chairman, that a copy of the statute, including those findings, be included in the record.
It will be.
I won't quote all those findings, but 3 points must be made. First, Congress found in the law that the military's mission to prepare for and conduct combat operations requires servicemen and women to accept living and working conditions that are often Spartan and characterized by forced intimacy with little or no privacy. Second, the law finds that civilian life is fundamentally different from military life, which is characterized by its own laws, rules, customs, and traditions, including many restrictions on personal conduct that would not be tolerated in civil society. Finally, the law finds that the essence of military capability is good order and unit cohesion, and that any practice which puts those goals at unacceptable risk can be restricted. These findings were the foundation of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and I'm eager to hear from our distinguished witnesses what has changed since these findings were written, such that the law they supported can now be repealed. Has this policy been ideal? No, it is not, but it has been effective. It has helped to balance a potentially disruptive tension between the desires of a minority and the broader interests of our all-volunteer force. It is well understood and predominantly supported by our fighting men and women. It reflects, as I understand them, the preferences of our uniformed services. It has sustained unit cohesion and unit morale while still allowing gay and lesbian Americans to serve their country in uniform. And it has done all of this for nearly 2 decades. Mr. Chairman, this is a letter signed by over 1,000 former general and flag officers who have weighed in on this issue. I think that we all in Congress should pay attention and benefit from the experience and knowledge of over 1,000 former general officers and flag officers, and where they say, we firmly believe that this law which Congress passed to protect good order, discipline, and morale in the unique environment of the armed forces deserves continued support. And so I think we should also pay attention to those who have served, who can speak more frankly on many occasions than those who are presently serving. I know that any decision Congress makes about the future of this law will inevitably leave a lot of people angry and unfulfilled. There are patriotic and well-meaning Americans on each side of this debate, and I have heard their many passionate concerns. Ultimately, though, numerous military leaders tell me that don't ask, don't tell is working and that we should not change it now. I agree. I would welcome a report done by the Joint Chiefs of Staff based solely on military readiness, effectiveness, and needs, and not on politics, that would study the don't ask, don't tell policy, that would consider the impact of its repeal on our armed services, and that would offer their best military advice on the right course of action. We have an all-volunteer force. It is better trained, more effective, and more professional than any military in our history, and today that force is shouldering a greater global burden than at any time in decades. We owe our lives to our fighting men and women, and we should be exceedingly cautious, humble, and sympathetic when attempting to regulate their affairs. Don't ask, don't tell has been an imperfect but effective policy. And at this moment, when we're asking more of our military than at any time in recent memory, we should not repeal this law. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator McCain.